Hi everyone, welcome to PoutineSWap's second video. Today is January 24th, and it's about 7 p.m. in Calgary. A beautiful day, not too cold. We had 2 weeks of absolutely cold weather. We usually get that in January, but this year it was a bit early. So beautiful day. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the markets. The last video we talked about was, if the resistance breaks down, the Bitcoin might reach like around 35, 36K mark. And that's where we are right now at the 35K mark, right? Even touching 34. That's where we are. If it breaks through the 32, 33 mark, it's probably going to end up around the 25K, price point. But today, let's move away a little bit from Bitcoin, right? The big daddy. Let's move away from Bitcoin a little bit and talk a little bit about DeFi. I did want to talk about this last week, but never got a chance. So let's talk about it. What's happening in DeFi right now, right? A lot of new projects coming and people are building in Web3, right? Creating new protocols, creating new projects. And even more important, I think, is people actually investing in those projects. And I'm not talking about venture capital. I'm talking about like people around us, normal everyday people investing in those projects. And I think it's super important. I think it's super important that we have normal everyday people invest in Web3 projects, right? Could be decentralized finance, blockchain projects, whatever, right? And I believe that because just having investors in Web3 doesn't help anyone, right? Just having money in Web3 doesn't help anyone. If we are to transition as a society from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0 in the time span that we all want, is like basically, we want the public to move. And the only way to move is, guys, if everyone is educated about the basics of it. So it's great. It's absolutely fantastic to see people investing in these projects, right? What do I want to talk about today? Today, I want to talk about some of the rebase currency projects that are ongoing right now, right? I won't take names. If you are in the space with rebase currencies, or tokens, you kind of know the projects that are the hype or hot right now. But these projects, it's for those of you who don't know, like what happens is these projects promise astronomical, exponential, APYs, like your compound interest rates on your investment, right? And a lot of people buy into it. It's simple as that. You show someone 100,000%, 200,000% APYs. Some people don't question it. Like, where is this coming from, and how is it sustainable? How long is the runway, and am I gonna crash, right? No, people look at the 200,000% APYs and they, what do we call it in the space? Ape in, monkey in, ape in to the project, right? And and a lot of what should I call, bad actors are, bad actors are exploiting this weakness of our society. Is like they understand that greed is an inherent human nature, and no matter how old you know humans get on this planet, right? Since humans were first intelligent beings, greed is always going to be there, right? So people exploit this. They have been exploiting in the past, they are doing it right now, they will do so in the future, right? They create these dummy projects with high APYs and just lip service and people aping, and then either there is a rug pull or the team cannot deliver what they promised, right? So what do we do? What do we do as investors? What do we do as normal people who are trying to move to Web3? How do we get everyone around us to move into Web3? What do we do? Right. Number one, education, right? And learn about the project you want to invest in, right? You may not know the technicalities of it. You may not understand the smart contract, like what's coded and what these lines mean, and how the transactions are going to work and all that technical stuff. But at a very high level, at a very, very high level, guys, try to understand number one, the utility that the project or the value that the project is trying to create. Okay, that's number one. Number two, um, and probably even more than number one in the short term, right, is what are the revenue sources? What are the revenue sources for the project's treasury, right? Every DeFi project has a treasury. This treasury is what allows the protocol to be developed, allows the protocol to be created upon, allows the protocol to be integrated into the Web3 ecosystem, right? Um, so the treasury is very important. You need to understand at a very basic level without getting too technical is what are the revenue streams coming into the treasury and what is flowing out, right? If the only revenue sources for a DeFi project or a Web3 project um, is transactionary commissions. What I mean by that, transactionary commissions from buy sell of their own native tokens, like swap to another currency, Ether, MAT, or Phantom, whatever, right? Either swapping of their own tokens and a percentage fee of that. So it's pretty cool to have protocol owned liquidity, right? So the project owns the liquidity and gets a percentage of those transactionary fees, which is perfect. So, but if the only revenues coming into the treasury are transactionary commissions, number two, any commissions from bond sales. Again, these bonds are created by the project itself, right? Not by open markets, by the project itself, right? It's essentially a pair, and you get a discounted token for that project if you lock up for your investment for say like 5 days, 7 days, mm, like a GSC, right? Um, and a percentage of that, or there is a promise um, that the value creation for the investors is in the fact that they invest a certain amount of money, or however you want to call it, right? Whether it's fiat, whether it's ETH, whether it's BTC. If users invest something into that project and they're told that the upside is if you stake the tokens, stake the utility that we are giving you, basically lock it up, take it off the market, essentially, right? So it's not available in the market. This artificially raises the price for the available tokens, right? So if that's the upside that's being sold by the protocol protocol or the project to the investors, whether it's VC, whether they are normal people. If that's the core thing that is being sold as the value creation tool for the protocol, um, that's not a good thing, right? Um, it is okay. It is okay for a project to have just these three or four revenue streams, which add up substantially, actually, like, at least in the first phase, like the startup phase, when everyone apes in and without understanding just throws in the money, because you do want to grow the treasury. But if there is no plans by the project to what to do if a certain target uh, KPI is met by the project, whether it's like, hey, we will do these things if the treasury is at $200 million, right? We will do these things if, like, treasury is at $500 million, right? So if there is no, and how to, and even more importantly, how does the project intend or plan to grow the revenue streams? What's the plan and what's the timeline, right? So you need to understand that as a very, very basic level. And if you understand, then we need to teach people around us, educate them as well when it comes to DeFi investing. How do we how do we properly invest in DeFi projects? The reality is, unless this becomes mainstream, like, people are comfortable investing in DeFi safely, with some understanding, it's going to be a long time before we start moving, entire segments of population from Web 2 to Web 3.0, right? It will take a lot of time. It's eventually going to happen for sure, but to make the process a little bit pain free and a little bit more smooth, it is important that people around us are aware about what to invest in Web3, right? And be comfortable about doing that. And the only way to do that is by understanding the risks with a project, by understanding the real value creation. You see, the value creation is not, if a project is selling that, hey, the value in our utility is staking our utility and you get $1 million, not $1 million, but $1 million% APY, that's not a utility, guys. Like, no. If a project is saying that the utility is there, like if it's an NFT project, for example, and they're saying the only utility, if you find out for an NFT project, is just buy this and take it off the market. So the price of all the NFTs in that project is now 10x. Maybe it'll make money for a few people, but that's that's not really where we want to take the space, right? And that is not where we need to head to, right? The value should be in the actual utility tied to the NFT, right? Not just holding it from the market. So, don't play this demand supply game, right? Like, there is a difference between creating the value created out of demand supply, which is because people want to use that commodity because of the utility it provides, right? Versus artificially playing this demand supply game by taking the stuff off the market, right? So both are demand supply, but there's a huge difference between artificially created demand and one created because there's so much utility with this commodity that people want it and there's not enough of it. Okay, so there's a huge difference. And in the DeFi space, unfortunately, this is what's going on right now with a lot of even like um, big hype projects. Is like people are being sold that, oh, it's game theory, let's all stake the tokens and everyone's going to win. No, it doesn't work like that. Treasury needs real revenues coming in, right? You cannot just be dependent on other people not selling their products so the prices go up and then eventually everyone gets rich. It doesn't work that way, right? It's just wealth transfer. Some will lose everything and some will make a lot of money. But that is not where we want to take Web3. So and get yourself familiar with the space if you want to invest in the space. It's fantastic that normal people are getting more used to Web3 technologies, projects, protocols. Fantastic. Read the white papers, understand who's behind the project, right? See if the team is doxed or not doxed. There's no good or bad about either, right? Doxed is fine, right? If the founders are doxed, at least the core team is doxed, is fantastic. It gives you another level of comfort. But not saying undoxed projects don't work. I mean, Bitcoin is a great example. Some people still speculate it's Mr. Musk who invented it. You know, it's not important that you are doxed or not doxed. What's important is creating value, right? Creating the utility for your project, right? For your users, for the ecosystem, for Web3 in general. When you build something good, people will find it. People will find it, right? So um, don't just go by. Don't ape in. Don't ape in looking at the APY. Don't ape in looking at the APY. Like that's what I tell people. I think I should make this as my um, status on Teams. Like don't ape in looking at the APY. But that's where we are. Like it's hard to change human mentality. What we can do still is get people more educated about the space and hopefully um, get the space into the right direction, right? Away from the away from the rug pulls, away from the bank runs, and um, away from people who are actively on there exploiting this human nature of greed. So that's all I have, guys. About 17 minutes. I thanked myself for 12 minutes. I kept on going, I think, for a little bit too much. But we will connect again in the next, um, I would say, what is it, 24th? Let's connect a first week of February. Let's see where the markets are, what's happening, right? If there is anything exciting happening in terms of like new projects coming on board, I maybe that's something I can talk about. We are also actually working on a Web3 project right now, connecting the metaverse and the digital space. Yes, I didn't say crypto, I said digital. So metaverse, digital space, um, and the commerce that happens, we are trying to build an ecosystem around it. So I can definitely chat a little bit about that in the coming weeks. But for now, happy trading. If you are invested already, hold on to your assets if it's not too critical. It will improve, right? These are just normal hiccups before consolidation. Um, Consolidation of the overall space, right? Consolidation of the overall Web3 space, right? These are very, very tiny hiccups, ups and downs, usually ups, but then consolidates. So it's going to be okay. So if you're invested, keep invested and happy trading. Some of you will find good entry points into a lot of new and exciting projects. So do your homework and invest safely and with some education into the project. Okay. Thank you guys. I will talk to you later.